gentlemen, welcome back to the Finding Arizona podcast. I'm your host, Jose. As always, we bring in someone very special. Today, I would love to say that we are face-to-face, but we are actually not. We are coming to you through the magic of Skype, and we are very excited to do this episode for those of you who are inside and really just kind of taking in every bit of what the CDC is telling you. Stay indoors, wash your hands, all of that jazz. But that being said, please welcome my guest. He is the owner of True Fan Marketing. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my guest, Mike Guillen. Am I saying that right?
It's Guillen.
Guillen, sorry. Mike,
it's okay.
Thank you again for coming in and doing all of this. Behind the scenes, we have just set up our audio systems, and we are now full force and running with this podcast. Thank you again for coming in. I appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you. It's really a blessing, and yes, absolutely. I'm glad we have the technology that in case this wasn't going to work, hanging out and talking in person, that we at least have the ability to do this remotely. So thanks again for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I am very excited for someone of your kind of how you proceed on with what we were going through with the audio stuff. So it's like someone who has that much detail and passion for what they do. I know that this is going to be a fun, exciting podcast. And I always tell my fans, anytime two podcasters come together, it's a good time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So let us start with the question that we usually ask everyone. Can you give us a little bit of your origin story on how your True Fan Marketing came to be?
Yeah, it's a lot of happy accidents and just saying yes to opportunities.
Absolutely.
My background goes, we'd have to probably start with my foray in the golf industry. I played professionally for at least a short amount of time. A career-ending injury kind of set me aside, and the subsequent surgery just really kind of set my career back. And then I ended up going to college relatively late. I was in my mid-20s when I started.
Yeah.
And that's really it wasn't so much that I had any idea where it was going to lead. It was more so just trying to figure out what opportunities were there for me. And I started as a theater major because I originally thought that I was going to be a screenwriter, or at least like a playwright. And then that morphed into my passion for philosophy, which ended up being my background, or being my major when I transferred to the university, Northern Arizona University. And from that point, I realized that I really didn't know if this was going to kind of work out for me. So I ended up dropping out and just kind of became a bit of a nomad for a while. Moved to Nevada.
Yeah.
Just kind of lived out of a couple suitcases. And at one point, about 4 years ago, around that point, Amazon really started to become like the place to go for self-published authors. And I had always thought about writing a book, but finally, during the summer of 2016, if you've ever been to Vegas, it's not much different than the Valley. It's hot. No one wants to go outside.
Yeah.
And so I really kind of put the time in, and within a month had basically wrote a book about my experiences in the golf industry. And it's called Professional Golf for the Rest of Us. And really it was about understanding or providing a blueprint for anyone that wanted to play golf professionally. Just what to expect, how to understand that it's very difficult, and you really have to test yourself. The how-tos, you don't really give swing advice or anything like that to people that are aspiring professionals. Usually, unless they're really delusional, they usually know that the technical side of it. But this was more about the mental side of it.
Yeah.
Making sure that you're always testing yourself. And as I've come to learn, and we'll get to it, that's really the lessons I learned with being a professional golfer really apply themselves to every aspect of my professional and even my personal life.
Cool.
So I wrote that and ended up writing a couple small ones. Then I wrote a novel, which is based in Arizona. It's about a kid who grew up with a similar background to mine. Lost both parents relatively young. He was the title character. He actually was living in the cart barn of or the maintenance yard of a golf course in Casa Grande,
No,
and
wow.
which was kind of I never had to experience that, but as a young kid, kind of a young angry kid who kind of had there's a lot about family and learning to trust others in that book, and that's probably my biggest my most proudest accomplishment as a writer to date. But
Yeah.
around that time is really when I really started to pick up heat as a freelance writer, and that was mostly in the realm of writing like how-to video or writing like how-to articles, writing affiliate marketing content for golf websites.
For sure.
And then out of the blue, a husband and wife real estate team in Scottsdale was looking for a writer who really knew the valley, really knew kind of like the culture, to help them with content for their real estate website. And
Yeah.
from just by saying yes to that, that opened up numerous other opportunities. Now I get the opportunity to do some video production, photos, and it's really all been about just learning, learning new skills.
Yeah.
And now I've been able to parlay that into basically having my own marketing company that really is focused on providing, very simple, straightforward solutions to anyone that has a knack for something, has a skill, has a talent, and that really wants to convert that skill into something that they can do to make a living with.
Absolutely. And just from your conversation with just like how you have lived your life and what you've been through, I can definitely see that your ability to connect with people and kind of understand that the deeper meaning or the story behind what they're trying to get through is something that you try to really dig for. Essentially, you have taken your life and really pushed it into what you're passionate about, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's well, the thing about kind of my journey that I would learn is that I never had a set plan for any of this to happen.
Mm.
I had no concept of what marketing meant, or what it entailed. It was really just a matter of taking this skill that I had, which I kind of crafted over time, becoming a writer, and at least a fairly decent one. I mean, I never you can never really know. A lot of times that's very much what other people think,
Yeah.
in regards to whatever skill you have. But at least I've taken that skill though, but it's provided so many other opportunities, and it really just started with putting myself out there, kind of learning from others, and I've really applied that same skill into everything. And now the main purpose for True Fan Marketing is to be kind of like an example, and also just provide what I've learned from these experiences
Absolutely.
to allow people that have whatever it be. It might be maybe you're an artist, maybe you're a painter, maybe you're really good. If you're really good with numbers, if you want to reach out to people who struggle with math, maybe you have a unique way of teaching it, and
Hmm.
you just want to use your skills and do something that you really enjoy doing. And that's really what this is, creating
Yeah.
this company has been about.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have, I just want to kind of your unique story and how you kind of left school and you were this kind of backpacker. I wanted to understand a little bit more of that side of you and what that what that felt like after leaving school, or kind of that process. What was your mentality like, and what were you kind of thinking or hoping for in that time that you left?
Well, the great thing is that we can tell this story. We have two different editions of this story, and this is for, if anything I can do is just to dispel the rumors that
Yeah.
you need to have some kind of college education in order to have any kind of successful life, and I am living proof that that's not true. My mother passed away in April of 1999
Hmm.
from cancer. She was 33. I was just about to turn 14. And at that point, my desire for anything interscholastic just went away.
For
I
sure, I would
basically
understand
fall
that.
in the school districts. I don't know if they've changed since then, but at the time, as long as you were eligible for as long as you passed all your classes within the first quarter, you were eligible to participate in the regionals and state of the particular season. And since the golf season was in the fall, as long as I had as long as I had passing grades for all of my classes
Yeah.
after the first quarter, then I'd be able to participate in regionals and state. And that was my goal. And from my sophomore and junior year, I made sure I at least met those minimum requirements. And then after that, I got arrested for truancy once, for having some ungodly number. I think when I actually left high school, I had 6.5 credits out of 20 that I needed to graduate.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I eventually, but it was never a question of if I was smart or if I, just didn't get it. I mean, I learned a lot in school. I just never had the grades to prove it. So then I ended up taking kind of the easier route. I got my GED about a year later, and then put my heart and soul into my golf career for about 4 years. And then when that ceased to be, I at least had the GED, which at least allowed me to get into college, or at least see if I could test too. And I, lucky enough, I tested out of any of the sub 100 courses. Okay. And really just college was really about figuring out what my next step was going to be. Yeah. And I lived a very straightforward life, and I didn't have a lot of expenses. I didn't have a family, so I could afford to just basically focus on school with the help of some student loans, and really just and it was the writing class, my writing 101 class that I took, that really kind of showed me like, hey, I actually have a knack for this writing thing.
Yeah, for sure.
So I started going through that, and I just did a lot of experimenting. I was in a play. I was in Inherit the Wind for the
nice.
spring play. Learned that you can put my name under those, as it does not work well with others, especially in a tight, intimate setting like that, where you're doing 4 shows a day or 4 shows a week for 3 weeks and rehearsals, and it's all the respect in the world to people who do performing arts for a living, because it's not easy. So I transferred up to NAU, and after the first semester, I thought that my life might be headed towards a career in academics, as a professor, and that I would go the route of getting my master's and my PhD and becoming a professor. And then I learned about the kind of the bureaucracies involved in higher education, and that didn't appeal to me either. So it was really a lot of then when I realized that wasn't it, I kind of had a moment of, well, I don't really know what's going to happen, or where my life's going to go. And so I decided that, I'd also, around that time, I had picked up, when I was recovering from surgery, I had picked up a knack for playing poker. And so, and I actually was made enough to where I could at least, live off of it, as on a part-time basis. Yeah. So then that's one of the reasons that propelled me to move to Nevada, and I lived in Vegas and Reno, and really just kind of between that and then getting back into playing golf again, especially in Vegas with a great group of guys that work when I was working at a golf course out there. I always thought that my life was going to be working in golf courses while I was pursuing all these other ventures, whether it had to do with writing, if I was ever going to write a book, maybe that was going to kind of be my life. And so this, you go back, that was 5 years ago, right around this time is when I was living in Vegas, and you look at my life now, and it's like night and day.
For sure.
So it was really about, it was really just a process of kind of learning what was going to work for me, and making sure that I was in a position to where I had the option, the full option, to say yes to certain opportunities.
Absolutely.
A lot of times, I didn't really start making any real serious money with my writing until I was in my early 30s.
Interesting.
and
Yeah.
and that's a long time. And for some people, that's a long time to wait. And
Yeah.
you get a wife and you have kids, and you just kind of your life kind of molds itself for you. And so, but I've been incredibly fortunate, and it took a long time to kind of figure it out, but I don't regret a single moment of it. And I got to have a lot of fun. I did a lot of uh, had a lot of fun experiences, and
Yeah.
really, at the same time, like, I'm happy where my life is now.
Awesome. That really helps me a lot to kind of take away your experiences too, where just from there's so many things that I want to ask you. It's like, what I mean, as a pool like, or as a poker player, because I actually had a roommate of mine who, while we were in grad school, he actually took some time off to go learn how to become a professional like dealer over at one of the casinos. So I was his guinea pig to learn how to play poker and like blackjack and all those things. So basically, I'd spend weekends with him, kind of like learning card tricks and little card things, count understanding the games of poker, blackjack, and all those like details. So he had to just basically deal to me so that he could train himself how to become a professional dealer. And it was really fun, kind of learning that stuff and learning how the game works and kind of the nuances behind it. And I can attest that that is something. Once you have that in your belt, like when you go to Vegas and Reno, it's a little bit more fun. You know what you're doing.
hmm Yeah, and it really just everything in my life that I've at least tried to excel at. It's really just been the same formula, the same philosophy. Is that you start small, you don't put yourself at risk for financial ruin.
Yeah,
You study, you learn from the experiences of others. You read books, you watch videos, and we're all fortunate now that we have the resources like YouTube,
yeah,
and even like social media. Having poker players, they have the 2+2 forums where they can interact about certain hands. But the same could be said for marketers, or the same could be said for podcasters.
yeah,
Learning about the different structures. I listen to a ton of podcasts, and you kind of learn that they all have their own uniques. They have their own unique formats. They have their own different kind of sets of questions, and they have their own. Sometimes it's about an interaction and engagement. Sometimes it's more question and answered. But you really learn, it's really all about, finding things that interest you,
mm,
and just learning about the ways that you can become an expert, and finding ways to, and even if whether or not you turn it into something that you make money at,
yeah,
that's not even up to you. Sometimes that's just up to the market.
yeah.
That
Absolutely, I
really
agree.
just, especially in the case of poker, when Black Friday hit. For those of you that aren't aware, online poker, as a whole in the state or in the country, is illegal.
Mm,
That happened in 2011, and so
yeah,
now a lot of them have just moved offshores, and now there is no market for that anymore unless you want to live elsewhere. So things change, and but the key is that if you're passionate about a lot of things, and you have different skill sets that you want to kind of sharpen and polish, that
mhm.
there's nothing really stopping you.
Yeah. And the other kind of question I wanted to get into was your time as you've built your marketing, and where did the podcast come into play, and the kind of the yes moment for you to open yourself up, like you said before, and the category of does not play well with others. I want to know kind of how did you say yes to doing the podcast at first, and then how did you find yourself kind of kind of really diving deep with, like you said, the nuances of something that you're passionate about, or kind of diving deep with a subject.
Well, that's a great question. The podcast really just was born about where I wanted. One of the things that I really am passionate about is kind of removing the idea that you have to be special, or that there are only a select few of people that can do something that they're passionate about and make a living at it.
Yeah.
And as we've, probably shared within the first, 20 minutes or so, that I have a very atypical background.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to find people that have really, found a way to carve their own path and make a living doing something. And I'm still in the early stages of the podcast. As I was starting it, I was actually in the process of moving, so I haven't really had a chance to find more guests. But I'm hoping I will. And a lot of them, for example, like actually my most latest guest. Shout out to Katie Fisher Moffett.
Yeah, I
We
was
actually
listening to that just before I started talking to you.
we actually, and as you heard, we actually went to high school together.
Yeah.
And I just happened to see that that she is a beautician, and really and you can tell that her story and my story are completely different. She had been working in the beauty industry for 10 years or so before she kind of took that leap. Whereas I just took a ton of, low risk. I took a ton of leaps, but they were very low risk,
Yeah.
just kind of, deep dives. And it really just depends on your personality. But there's more than one way to kind of find that. So, and I want, as a marketer, I want people to realize that there's two kind of sides to it. There's no direct path, meaning that you can have, there's a variety of different ways to get there. And the flip side of that is there is no direct path. So don't expect there to be like a defined method of getting there, because it's different for everybody. And you have to kind of take the lumps and figure it out. But when you get there, it's very rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I have to admit, sir, like Mike, you killed it on the very first episode. You had one of, I think it was the Phoenix Metro Chamber of Commerce, and you had a representative come on, and I have to say, it's like to have something like that as one of your first episodes, that person, and just being official. Like, I'll admit, I was very impressed because for my first episode, it was one of my buddies that actually was the guy who I learned how to screen print from, and I was just basically like an intern for him, and I met all of these business owners through his screen printing business, and I was just like, can I do this out of your garage that you're doing your business out of? Can I run this podcast out of it? And he was like, yeah, man, go for it. And so he was my very first episode was like him, technically my boss, just kind of like him and I chatting about the things that he does and what he's been through, and just overall it was a great, because he had a lot of stories, but it was one of those things that, like, I'll admit, having seen your very first episode versus and understanding what my very first episode was, it was very impressive to see someone go dive deep and really knock it out of the park the very first time.
Well, thanks. Well, Jason Bressler, he's the Phoenix Metro Chamber of Commerce founder and chairman, and I mean, a guy like that makes it easy. My brief background with him is, so this goes back to the golf. So when I was first writing, even when I was starting to get really deep into providing marketing for other services, I still thought that kind of like my future was going to be promoting my golf-based works, especially my novel. Like I spent, I think it's been published now for a little over 2 years. And I really thought that was going to kind of be the path that I was going to take.
Yeah.
And so I met him at a networking event that is being hosted by a couple of guys that started a golf networking. It's On Par Golf Networking, and I got introduced to them by actually my general manager at the golf course in Vegas, who actually lives in the Valley. He had told me about it, and I said, well, sure, I can at least come and bring a couple hard copies of the novel, and that's how I got to meet Jason, and he invited me to a couple other networking events, and the man is just an incredible connector. As you could hear, he's very passionate about really kind of growing the economy side of Phoenix. and he doesn't just stick to Phoenix. It's so if you ever get a chance, and if he ever listens to this, I think this would be a great podcast for him to jump on, because just as an aside, what you've done with this podcast, especially having the guts to kind of really focus it just on our state.
Yeah.
That is very admirable, and so hopefully this is something that can go on for years to come.
Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. I mean, it means a lot to me, and my ultimate goal, like you, is just to give voice to the small voices. And I have been surprised and been just so enamored with every single person who's said yes to us, and you are definitely one of them. I have to say, one of the things that I want to learn from everyone is what they've learned from their own community and kind of what they've built as far as what they've built so far and what they've learned from the people around them, their connections to that community. I know that you are someone who has lived a different life and has had connections in different ways than I have. So I am very interested in learning those and what you've learned from the community, because this is about Finding Arizona and about our community, and there's a lot going on these days. So I also want to kind of catch up in modern times and what you're doing to kind of facilitate your own business through these hard times.
So as far as Arizona, I mean, I've had opportunities to live elsewhere, and I've taken those opportunities. Going through Vegas, there was I lived a little bit in New Mexico, but there's just something about the culture here that really kind of makes it special. A lot of a lot of kind of I know that Arizona kind of gets a lot kind of a hard kind of a bum rap as far even in like pop culture, where a lot of even like some of the biggest cartoons like The Simpsons and Family Guy, there's just a lot of fun is being kind of get poked and prodded at.
Yeah,
Arizona,
we're
but,
definitely one to get dunked on as far as statehoods.
but I mean, if you spend any time here and you really get to know the kind of people that are around here, it's nothing short of incredible. That's they kind of the bum rap that areas get is that, well, there's nothing to do, but trust me, if you can spend an entire day in downtown Phoenix or at Westgate. Downtown Scottsdale is probably one of the coolest bustling downtown areas that I can think of. And a few years ago I was lucky enough to take a cross country road trip, and I've been to downtown Chicago, downtown Salt Lake, the heart of San Francisco, downtown LA, downtown San Diego, and I've been to a lot of different places. And there's just something, it's something unique about desert dwellers in particular that kind of sets it apart. As far as my business, the biggest thing that we've tried to do, aside from just try to, well, from kind of from a selfish standpoint, getting a lot of filming done just because places are a lot less crowded. But the big thing that we've been trying to do, my girlfriend and I, is try to do what we can to support the local businesses, especially the restaurants. We're both foodies, and we're glad to see that a lot of them are still open. And so we kind of took the safe approach. I mean, we at least made sure that we stocked up on enough food here. But if we have the opportunity to go to one of the local restaurants to grab a bite or to grab our coffee, we've been doing that a lot, and really just try to focus on the fact that a lot of businesses, especially the restaurants, are very key, because some restaurants can kind of, or some industries can have they can kind of weather the storms a bit, especially ones with with strong buffers.
Yeah.
I don't think Walgreens is going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But restaurants, they already run very thin margins, And
Mhm.
so this is the time to, if at all anyone can afford it. That's been the main thing from a business standpoint. Life is good.
Yeah, I think that I'm in the same boat as you. And my day job is a landscape architect, and I definitely feel the pressure and kind of the overall experience of everyone feeling anxiety. And I'm trying my best to do the same thing. We have enough food here at the house, and then when we can, we are. My wife actually is in kind of the healthcare business, and she's worried all the time. All of her people that she works with, the patients that she works with, and we do what we can, especially being also local people who are very much known for supporting the local community. We want everyone that we've done podcast episodes with to be financially successful and staying afloat. And then on top of that, we have a lot of other friends who haven't been on the podcast, but we love supporting in the local community. My own family has little businesses here in the local community, and all of that is just to say that we're trying our best to do what we can. And the same as you, we try to allow for people to use us as a resource, but also to provide those resources to others. So if you have anyone that that just has like a need or has something that they want us to shout out, please. I'm an open door. So both Mike and I, like, if anyone's listening, please look us up or shout us out. Like, talk to us. Let us know what we can do to help you guys out. One of the things I want to kind of ask you personally is like, are you guys like, what are you doing to like check in on your parents? Like, what's the situation? I mean, just like, I know you and your girlfriend, but it's like, what has you done personally, or like, what have you kind of gone through your daily life to kind of really, because I know for me, I'm just trying to help my family kind of, because I'm half Native American on my mom's side, and they found their first case on the tribe. And one of the devastating things about having a deadly virus like this on a tribe is that the elderly are some of the last people who know the language like that's their first language. It's not their secondary language. That is their very first language that they've learned in their life. And there's not many people like that. So, I know that there's struggles in every different aspects. Like you have mentioned, there's different ways things happen to people. So I want to know from your perspective, what have you kind of experienced?
Well, I don't know if it's from a family standpoint, at least on my side. I mean, pretty much everyone over the age. I think the oldest living relative that I have on my mom's side is like 60.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else is gone. But my girlfriend, her parents are in their late 50s, early 60s. Her mom's actually a nurse.
Oh wow, yeah.
So that's been a very careful thing. But we're really just keeping to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fortunate enough that most of what I get to do is from home, unless I'm out in the field getting photos or taking or filming video.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you
But
really
it's really
quick
about,
about that too.
yeah.
One of the things that I know really goes well with marketing and things like that is the B-roll that you provide for your customers and one of the things that I can imagine now is that because there's not a lot of people in the area where some places shut down and things like that, are you grabbing things like that where it's like opportunities for B-roll that is so magnificent because there aren't many people in the way or there aren't many distractions?
Oh yeah. That's been it's important to kind of see well, there's a couple lessons that are involved in this, and that's really that even in the dire times, there are at least opportunities to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been, and especially right now, because this, under normal circumstances, this is by far the most congested the state south of Flagstaff is going to be.
Yeah.
Between the county fairs, the state fairs, just the perfect weather. Like, the weather couldn't be better. This is like that golden hour of weather in Arizona before the heat starts getting cranked up.
Yeah.
But it's really just a matter of, like that's been yesterday. We found some great sunset footage.
Awesome.
And then we'll be in Saguaro National Park tomorrow, just kind of getting some other content, getting some other video, especially at sunrise.
Yeah.
Because right, and especially with all the blooms, with all the desert blooms,
Oh yeah, they bloomed early
it's a
this year
great time.
too.
Yeah, it's been perfect. It's been a, I mean, but as far as from the as far as the safety side is concerned, it's really just been about just making sure that everyone's okay.
Mhm.
Understanding that the social distancing part is it's more so about just making sure that our hospitals don't get slammed, because the last thing you want in any situation is every medic, every doctor focusing on patients, and it's important for that. But but then what if, for example, what if there's a 3-car accident,
Yeah.
and you got 2 people in critical condition, and there's nowhere for them to go. It's that kind of stuff that's really scary. I think from overall, like, we're going to be fine. The kind of the narrative I've had in my head is, as human beings, as a culture and as a species, we've endured a lot, and we've experienced a lot over the course of hundreds and thousands of years. So as long as we stay tough and we care for one another, it's going to take a lot more than that to kind of ruin, or it's going to take a lot more than that to kind of tear us down.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on board with you, man. I try and keep a positive light towards everything, and I'm a glass half full personality. So I'm with you on that. I'm totally looking forward to the day where I can go and hang out with some friends during happy hour and enjoy the time that I have with them and all of that jazz. But before I go on, the last bit I usually ask, our guest is kind of the future for your business and what your hopes and goals, because really what we want to do too is in this last moment is to provide an opportunity to goal set or to put out into the universe something that they want to accomplish. Because I mean, with a just kind of the community that we built and the friendships that we have together, I think we can make something special happen for you and your business. um, this is your chance to really let something that you want to happen come from your heart and just say it out into the world right now.
Okay. Well, I mean, what my goal is, to see, so as a just someone that, one of the things that I've, well, hold on, let me start this over again. What it really boils down to is the fact that over the course of my time, when the time that I started working, the time I joined the workforce, up until I started my own business and my business started to flourish, is that I've had a lot of different jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even get into the number of different industries I've worked in. Mostly just trying stuff out, seeing what worked, seeing what I liked about things.
Yeah.
And what I learned is that a lot of people don't like what they do for a living.
Yeah.
They do it out of necessity. Sometimes they do it out of self-loathing. They go to work and they collect their paycheck. Even people that make a lot of money
Mm-hmm.
can be begrudging about it,
Yeah.
for whatever reasons, whether they do it out of spite, whether they do it just out of hatred. There's a lot of different motivations, but the people that I've gravitated to most are the people that, and a lot of them have just been clients of mine, people that, wake up every morning and they're excited to get their day started. They're excited to get started on this next project. They're excited to continue working on this other project.
Yeah.
That's really what's been my motivation, and I want to see the ultimate goal for True Fan Marketing, because one of the things that I want to be clear about, and is that my goal is to have it be a entity that is for Arizona businesses and freelancers and entrepreneurs that are provided tools by other Arizona freelancers, entrepreneurs, and small business owners.
You
So it's
speak
really
in my
about growing
language.
that. It's really about that, and not only that, but creating an atmosphere where things are considered, where things can be done very simply, and a lot of times more affordably than a larger firm can do, or even even an independent team that maybe, like video is a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
So when a lot of companies, or when a lot of like small business owners want to create professional looking content, they'll call up a few companies.
Yeah.
They'll call up some freelancers, and they'll start hearing numbers in the thousands
Yeah.
of for like a 2-minute video. But there's nothing wrong with that, because if anyone's out there that's curious as to why these cost so much, just go onto like a YouTube video and find out what a professional photographer or professional cinematographer has, and go on Amazon or eBay and look up the prices.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
video equipment is not cheap. If you're trying to do like even just mid-level professional photography, you're looking at least a $2,000 camera. You're looking at least a couple, $800 to $1,500 lenses.
Yeah.
The software is not cheap.
Absolutely.
Things can break. There's a lot of extra costs, and just the skill of it it's a very potent skill. It's a very difficult skill.
Mm-hmm.
So you're paying for a lot of that. But what my goal is to have, I've done, along with my partner, shout out to Alan Foreman.
Shout out Alan.
Hopefully we'll listen to this. He and I have done some projects together where we're using, base level cameras, the kit lenses, some basic lighting, and we're creating, at least, good quality content without having to charge, what other people might do. The same, I want, and above all else, just showing people that it's not that difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Especially nowadays. One of the things that I also kind of learned about when I was in Vegas was learning how to code web design, so HTML and CSS.
Yeah.
And it's tedious. It's not hard, but it's tedious. But nowadays, you don't even have to know how to do any of that if you don't want to.
Yeah.
We have drag and drop builders now. Finding clients is incredibly easy. I use Upwork. That's kind of what I built my career around, and that's what really got me my start. But there's Fiverr. There's ways that you can engage with clients, and it is possible to make a living doing something that you enjoy.
Yeah.
And my goal is to see more people out there taking control of their financial future, taking control of their time, their scheduling, and just having a better life, because we're only here once, and you shouldn't spend it doing something for 40, 50 years that you just don't want to do.
Yeah, I'm with you on that part. And I also want to say thank you, Mike, because one of the things that I'm kind of seeing that I am kind of saying that I kind of say all the time is work with what you got. At the end of the day, if you can't afford it, you still have a cell phone in your hand. You still have all these resources. You still have an opportunity to make something that you are, you can do. You can do something, and it doesn't mean that you are bad at it or anything like that. It just means that you're still learning. You learn the process first, and then as you slowly build your skill level, you'll make prettier or nicer things that you've done prior to said project. But I think that that's always a tenement that I've always told people: work with what you got. Don't try and go outside of your means. Don't try and push the envelope too much. It's just work with the things that you are able to work with, and you can learn the skill level. And then from there, once you have all the skill level, you get the fancier thing, you get the prettier and nicer thing, and that way you know how to use it a little bit better, or your skill level for that is more adapt to whatever scenario that comes across your way. And so thank you again
Absolutely.
for letting me build reassurance on that tenement and that saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Mike, as we finish up here and we're wrapping up, I always kick it to you to let everyone know where they can find you online, any of your social media, and any events that you may be going to. I know that events are few and far between right now, but if you have something in the future that you're excited about, this is your chance to promote yourself. Go right ahead.
All right. Awesome. So you can find me online at truefanmarketing.com. You can, social media, same thing applies. Right now it's just a Facebook and Instagram, but they're both, and a Twitter, and they're all True Fan Marketing. Twitter is actually True Fans AZ is the handle there. You can, as far as events, I don't do a ton. I was hopefully going to do some marketing, go to some networking events in the Valley, in April, but now that's kind of fallen by the wayside. At some point, if you can subscribe to any of those channels, or just visit my website. You can shoot an email, and I can keep you up to date. There should be some YouTube videos coming out where I really start kind of showing people how easy it is to just do the basics of have a website, getting yourself set up to look for clients, and
nice.
a lot of exciting stuff hopefully coming especially when there's nowhere to go.
Yeah, exactly. Mike, thank you so much for coming on our show. I want to also say before we go, ladies and gentlemen, you can hear every episode of our podcast at findingarizonapodcast.com. We make it easy for you guys to connect with us, so everything for us is under Finding Arizona Podcast. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all under Finding Arizona Podcast. Last but not least, if you are if you're seeking to help us out, I appreciate it. There are other opportunities for you guys to go help out others. But if you are adamant about helping us out, patreon.com/Finding Arizona Podcast. There, we will give you an opportunity to get back something in return. That is our bonus podcast called Fine Examination. It's 50 questions that we fill up with fun for every guest. So hopefully, Mike, if I can pull you aside for just another 10 minutes, I'd love to run through these rapid fire questions. I promise they're fun. They're just really easy, and we can bulldoze right through it. I promise. That sounds
Absolutely.
awesome. That sounds great.
Let's do it.
So before we go, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you for listening. And then thank you to Mike for coming on the show. And then we will wrap this up by saying goodbye to all of you. And we will see you on the next one. Goodbye, y'all.